Hello and welcome back to the Rugby League Pom-Cast. It is finals season. We've kicked off last week with some absolutely unbelievable games. We're going to be reviewing them and we're going to be previewing this week's fixtures. I say we because, of course, I'm joined with co-host Sam Leckie. How are we, Sam?
Very well, lad. It's class, isn't it?
It is class. That is exactly it. The
Not do
weather.
the
There's
whole
not a
do the whole
there's not
podcast.
a there's not a cloud in the sky as I'm looking out my window.
Yeah, that grim
Down in
weather from
Sydney.
last week seems to have disappeared from Sydney. God, oh, not last week, but like a couple of weeks ago.
A
God, that
couple
was
of
bad.
weeks ago. Mate, it was
Um,
horrific. To be
yeah,
fair,
it's
last
been warm up here.
Tuesday I think there was bad rainfall. That was the one where
Mm.
all the trains went bust. But yeah, it's been picking up. And we've got a fair bit of news to cover in the NRL because it has been a pretty
It's been a week.
strange little week. I say strange, it's bloody rugby league, isn't it? You
Yeah,
should
it's
be
been a
used
week,
to it
hasn't
by
it?
now.
Yep.
Um, Should we start off with the elephant that is sat in the podcasting world's room and the media storm that has surrounded it? Obviously, sticking to just the latest reports that the Smith Radley sort of incident involving a few Roosters players by the sounds of it at the time. Um,
Mm.
yeah, talk to me about it.
Well, yeah, it's been simmering around for a little while. Because there was that game against the Titans where the Rabbitohs were coming up to play on the Gold Coast, and as they got off the plane at Coolangatta Airport, the police tracked down Brandon Smith, sorry, and
Yeah.
yeah, stopped him and asked him some questions. And we actually on our radio station had the police commissioner of Queensland, or the interim police commissioner of Queensland, Shane Shalepi, on the show at the time, and he was very coy on it and just said, no, there's been no wrongdoing. We just wanted to ask him some questions in relation to a matter that was ongoing. And a couple of weeks after that, the bombshell dropped about Brandon Smith being caught up in some drug and betting charges, and those charges he heard formally in court today on the Gold Coast. So Thursday for anyone that's catching up. And yeah, basically the charges are that he was contacted by Victor Radley, or the accusations are he was contacted by Victor Radley and supplied him with drugs while the Roosters players were on a trip to the Sunshine Coast. And as we always have to say in the media, after you bring up an allegation like that, you then have to always say that there is no suggestion of any wrongdoing from Victor Radley. But I mean,
Yep.
that's the story. That's what the story is. But the other charges were about Brandon Smith's return against Manly a couple of weeks
Yeah,
after he ended up joining
seen
Souths
some of this on NRL
and
360.
telling a couple of friends that he would be, well, it was asked by a couple of friends that he was going to be playing, whether or not he would be playing, because after he was named on the extended bench, and he told them that he would be. And I know that his lawyer yesterday, Brandon Smith's lawyer Paul McGurr, yesterday said that it's just like if you're telling your parents that you're going to play, or going to end up playing. It's the same sort of situation, but the issue is that he's given insider knowledge, and then based on that insider knowledge, a person's gone and then placed a bet on it, which is a big no-no. And we've seen a lot of people in the past stood down. Tim Simona, the big one, stood down for anything relating to betting. And I mean, Tim Simona was betting on players that were opposing him to score, so it's slightly different. It's slightly different, you could say, but yeah, it seems that Brandon Smith's in a fair bit of strife. He was formally charged. He's back in court early October, I think, from memory, to defend himself. But he's going to plead not guilty. And yeah, but it's just another scandal in the wild old world of rugby
It's
league.
gonna it's gonna rumble on for a while, this one. It's not gonna
Yeah.
be an easy fix.
Well,
Obviously, I
no,
know that the
nothing happens quickly in the courts here in Queensland. I can tell
no,
you
and
that.
and obviously it's innocent until proven guilty anyway in the first part. And where does so like with obviously the Bunnies have obviously publicly a few weeks ago anyway, he was still playing for the Bunnies while these things were going on, and like word was like, if it does rumble onto next year, will would the NRL sit with stand down policies and stuff like that? It's such a grey area at the minute
Yeah,
for the NRL.
yeah, it is. And I mean, earlier in the week, Andrew Abdo wouldn't answer questions or comment on the case because it was an ongoing case. But
Yeah, I don't blame
I
him.
don't see the no fault stand down policy has the actual the wording of it is that the NRL will automatically stand down players charged with serious criminal offences and allows the CEO discretionary power for lesser offences and the mandatory concussion. Oh no, so sorry, that just goes on. So that's about the stand downs. Um, so serious criminal offences. That's what we've seen when there was allegations against Jack DeBellin, which he was ultimately acquitted of.
Hmm.
Uh, Michael
Taylor
Jennings,
May,
Michael Jennings, I believe, was subject to it when he was in court. Curtis Scott, Taylor May was one of them that
Luciano
was.
Leilua, didn't he?
I
Or was
don't
that in the
actually
off
think.
season?
I don't. I think that was off season, so he would have been if the matter was still in court when the season rolled around. But I don't. From memory, Luciano Leilua ended
Yeah, I
up
don't think he did because he
being
went.
allowed to play. Um,
Yeah,
Talatau Amone or Junior Amone was one of them with the hammer attack in
yes,
Wollongong,
and
or that's
that's
hammer
basically
threats. Hammer
ended his
threats. So those are the sort of
NRL career.
serious criminal offences where you're looking at violence and that sort of conduct. So that my guess would be that what is happening with Brandon Smith right now falls under lesser offences, and the fact that the NRL didn't stand him down at the time when the charges were first, or the accusations were first revealed would suggest to me that the CEO Andrew Abdo, he's got discretion over it and he doesn't see
Yeah,
them as being an offence that would fall under the no fault stand down policy. But whether or not it will impact his contract at South Sydney, whether or not there
that's
is
yeah,
genuine, whether or not there is genuine belief or there's findings in the court that Brandon Smith had encouraged somebody to bet on him based on his knowledge. And then, of course, the other one is the impacts that it has on Victor Radley now that he's insinuated in the drug offences that Brandon Smith's been charged with. And we've already heard that the Roosters are looking at legal options if they are to sever ties with Victor Radley and remove him from the roster and tear up his
yeah.
contract. And I know we'll talk about a potential location, and St Helens
I'm
is
I'm
one of the ones that have
I'm
said they're
sure we may
interested
well be.
in signing him. But I don't think this is going to come under the no fault stand down policy. But I also don't think that anyone involved is going to get off scot free.
Well, I'm gonna take you back to, I believe it was February when the Roosters um, board members came out
Yeah,
and said how they have a zero tolerance on drugs. Now, if you have a zero tolerance with drugs and these things are coming about,
yeah,
surely whoever is enticed with this scandal gets the
yeah,
boot.
yeah. So January in the Sunday
Sorry, it was January,
Telegraph.
wasn't it? I thought it was early Feb. It was January.
January in the Sunday Telegraph. Let me try and find these quotes from Nick Politis. But yeah, he basically said that anyone that's caught up, that the Roosters are going to adopt a zero tolerance policy. It was around the time that Josh Adokar was in trouble and ended up
Yeah.
getting sacked by the Bulldogs. And I think it was a little while after Latrell Mitchell, but Latrell Mitchell still hadn't served his suspension yet because of because that all happened in the off season. So those were the two
Hmm.
sort of scandals that were happening at the time. And Nick Politis said, yeah, the Roosters are going to tear up a contract of a player if they're caught up in any sort of. What he said was if they're caught using illicit substances. So that is going to make for an
Loophole.
interesting loophole potentially for Victor Radley. But yeah, there's a lot of water to go under the bridge here.
That's a. It's really strange because obviously they're not, and I don't really want to delve deep into it, but if they do, because apparently they've put word to his agent that they should start offering him to other clubs, and he has
Yep.
been told to offer himself to Super League and other NRL clubs, reportedly in the latest update. And Paul
Yep.
Whelan's actively coming out and saying, look, we'd happily we'd be interested under the right circumstances
Yep.
if Victor Radley became available.
Yeah.
He's said he wants to go to Super League at some point. Has every and Morgan Knowles obviously leaving and Saints failing to get a replacement for him. Has
Mm.
everything just fallen into place for St Helens to
But
potentially get to
yeah,
third 13?
I'm happy you said St Helens there because I would argue that things aren't exactly falling into place for Victor Radley or the Roosters
Oh no,
at
no,
the
no,
moment.
no!
But for St
It's
Helens,
not.
absolutely, it seems to. I think the problem that the Roosters are going to have is the fact that Nick Politis said, and I can't remember, couldn't in my quick search just then couldn't find the exact quote, but he said that it's players that are caught using illicit substances. So, as we said, there's no
What are they going to
suggestion.
do? They're not going to use it for
No,
throwing it up in
no,
the air and
no,
stuff.
exactly,
They're not
exactly,
going to.
and you're going to run into issues with
It's good.
the NRL and
Yeah,
RLPA if you try and tear up someone's contract over an allegation that is by this point because the golf trip where Brandon Smith's
it's going to be.
accused of supplying drugs
Yeah,
to Victor
there's
Radley
multiple players on it.
happened 6 months ago. So,
Yeah,
or about so you're not going to be able to prove that Victor Radley, if it comes to that stage, you're never going to be able to
no,
prove that Victor Radley has taken drugs in the first place.
no,
So that's going to make it very difficult for the NRL or the Roosters to tear up that contract, and then the RLPA are obviously going to have their say on it too. But you can understandably Nick Politis is like the Roosters are furious at the moment. Trent Robinson also furious that Victor Radley's name's even been raised in this,
yeah,
and it's always going to happen through the media because you've got great journos like Michael Chammas that are going to get their hands on the information and share it to the highest possible degree before it becomes defamation. And nothing like that has happened here. Like all he's doing is reporting what's gone on. But
hmm
I think the Roosters are furious that Victor Radley's been dragged into it at this stage, and I think I would believe that behind closed doors they'd be furious that the situation's even arised.
absolutely, and it's going to leave it. It leaves no one in a good place,
No,
which
and
is the sad
yeah,
thing about
there's
it.
no winners here.
Other than St Helens, if he does join, um,
Always look for the positives.
always over the bright side. Um, but
Well, the
yeah,
Roosters would
so
potentially clear 700 grand off their cap too. So
yeah.
you know,
Well, it wouldn't be the first loss that Roosters have had because they've lost someone this last week. I'm going to swiftly move on from this topic before we delve any deeper. Um, to be honest, it's one of them where I just hope that this is a wake up call
yeah,
for a few of the players.
yeah. You've
Um,
always got to look out for the
because it
welfare of the
goes on.
players too. Like there's and that's where I agree with what Trent Robinson said in that press conference. Is when he said that you've got to look out for the well-being of a player, and having their name dragged through something like this is not looking out for the well-being of the player. So obviously there's legal
No,
proceedings that need to go ahead, and if there's law that's been broken, then Brandon Smith and whoever else is involved is going to be punished accordingly. But at the end of the day, it's the same. It's like I. This is one of my big frustrations, particularly working in the media, is that when someone is accused of something, I remember the biggest example for me has been Sam Kerr, when Sam Kerr had the
of the
incident in the back of
racists.
the back of the taxi and was accused of racism by it was London Metro Police because she was in Chelsea at the
Yeah,
time, and like obviously you've got to have the gratuitous we don't stand for racism of any kind. Like that goes without saying. But then besmirching someone's character based on accusations that she was eventually, I believe, cleared of. Like first of all, you drag people's name through the mud with the story, and then you start questioning their character and that sort of thing. That's where I think everyone needs to take a backward step and go, let's just let this play out before we start throwing around titles of somebody being a degenerate or a racist or whatever it might be. Like
hmm
that's where we need to ease off a little bit and just let the court system take care of it.
yeah, exactly. Obviously, sometimes you know things get missed. sometimes the court go for too big of a charge than what's necessary, and
Yeah,
all that goes on. So just got to trust that they get it right and they get the charges right, and or whatever, and whatever will be will be. But the
yeah,
Roosters have lost someone this week, and they've replaced him, I believe, with a rugby union coach. Has that gone through? Because Justin
yeah,
Holbrook has left the assistance role of the Sydney Roosters and gone on to be named Newcastle Knights, the former St Helens and Gold Coast Titans head coach,
mm,
who, as we have has Des Hasler has proven, was actually overachieving at the Titans with what he had and
mm.
what he had in the bank. He is now going to the Newcastle Knights, who finished the year wooden spooners. Now, I rate it, but you are a little bit on the fence.
Look, yeah,
Or
I'm
you
on the
think it's
fence.
it's a borderline bad call?
Look, I've come around a little bit since we spoke earlier in the week because, like, when it popped up as things do, and when we text each other about footy news, I was a little bit like, it's a very odd decision. I thought
Yeah.
at the very beginning, mainly because, look, my thing was that Justin Holbrook, yes, he's been assistant coach at the Roosters and has been coaching under Trent Robinson, and he's already said, like, that time of being a Titans coach obviously showed that he can win comps with St Helens, being a Titans coach, and yeah, like you said, turns out he was overachieving. And I mean, when you look at what he did for the Titans, where they were before he came in, I think they'd had a wooden spoon. They'd had like some 15th and some 14th finishes, and not anywhere near the top eight. And then he came in. I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure the first year that he came in, they made finals. It was either that or the second year, and then
Finished
they were
ninth,
pretty.
didn't they? I think they
Yeah, and
finished
then and
ninth,
then
and then they
and then
made
they made
finals second
finals.
year.
They made finals, and Patrick Herbert cost them an advance to the second week with
Yeah,
that.
one pass away
Remember
from.
that pass? They were literally one pass away from
Yeah.
being in the second week of the finals. So, and then yeah, as things happen with the Gold Coast, they tend to turn things over pretty quickly. And Des Hasler came in, and 2 years later, you've got Joshy Hannah who's going to take over at the Titans. So I think the Titans job probably says a fair bit more about the
18 months
Titans.
later.
Yeah, that says a fair bit more to me about the Titans than what it does about Justin Holbrook's coaching ability.
Yeah.
So I've sort of come around to that. G's got a
He
big
made a
job
bold
though.
call already by the latest thing, because they signed Sandon Smith on the Roosters.
Yeah. So
And
the
they
word
were going to
was
sign him as a hooker.
yeah.
And Holbrook's made the call that he's going to be playing 7 with Dylan Brown playing 6.
I think that's the right call. Where's Fletcher Sharp fit into that? That's my only question. Wing? Did he go on the wing and sort of play that roaming role that
Well,
you see from guys like Xavier Savage? And
I reckon he's gonna play the Purdue role of left centre with Best on the right.
yeah, I don't know if you can move Bradman Best. Fletcher Sharp could play centre quite easily.
Not Bet or
But I mean,
I mean
that's a good.
move Best on the right, like
Yeah,
move
maybe,
sides or
maybe.
just have him playing centre and let
Yeah,
him learn his trade in a new
and
position, and then
let him roam. Like we see that
when you
with
need,
Xavier Savage. Who are
yeah,
some of the
roaming.
wings? Xavier Savage, Suafar when he's been on the field this year, has been playing on the
Yeah,
wing for Melbourne, but does a bit of roaming.
Stephen
There's a
Crichton,
couple of yeah,
literally
Crichton does
Stephen
it.
Crichton.
Even Katoni Staggs does it, like he did it a little bit against Canberra on the
Yeah,
weekend, roaming in field like
Nene
that first
McDonald
try.
for Salford. Add a bit of
Sorry,
Super League to it.
sorry. We're talking Crichton, Xavier Savage, Katoni Staggs, and we're putting Nene McDonald in the same conversation.
Yeah.
Sorry,
He might disappear. He
that's
might
so
disappear and
disrespectful.
not turn up.
Yeah, look, things can't get
Yeah,
worse
it's a
for the
Stephen.
Knights.
So disrespectful to Nene McDonald, man. Top 3
Yeah,
centres in the.
exactly. Carries Papua New
He
Guinea.
should be in that
Um,
PNG team. He might be about 40 by
yeah,
the time he comes in, but he should
he'll
be
be
in
the he'll be the back page signing for Papua New Guinea.
Yeah. Oh, we'll get onto
I
that.
yeah. So I think with Justin Holbrook, he's going to be a better coach than he was when he was at the Titans, and we've already said he was overachieving at the Titans. And let's be honest, the Knights couldn't get any worse.
No, they said that about the Tigers though when they went from 16th to 17th. So
Yeah, that's a good point. But look, the Knights can't get worse next year.
Yeah, yeah, that's true.
The
That's
year
true.
after they
It can
very well could.
only be
But
level.
yeah, but
It's a big
look,
rebuild job, though, no matter where you
it's a
sit,
massive rebuild,
because of the
and
forward pack.
yeah, I think the reason I was a little bit skeptical was because it came as a surprise. Like earlier in, like even the day before Holbrook was announced, I was hearing that Dean Young might be the guy that gets given the job, and Michael Checker, who the guy you're talking about, who's taken over as the Roosters assistant, he was in the conversation. There was talk about Blake Green,
That
talk
would have
about a
been
couple of,
stupid.
talk about a
That would have
couple,
been
yeah,
how can you have the worst attack in the NRL by a country mile and then
yeah. I
promote your
loved
attacking coach to head coach?
I loved all the stuff they were saying about Blake Green, where it's like, oh, that he's got a lot of support from the players, and the players really want him to coach. I'm like, sorry, you've scored 300 points for the season. I don't think you've exactly earned the right to be able to
Who was
choose who
the
your next
next
coach is.
lowest? Wasn't it like 150 difference or something?
Yeah, yeah, I'll get that up now. But I am what I've heard from Justin Holbrook so far this week has been promising. In the paper, it was talking about him playing halfback for the Knights during the 99 and 2000 series. So he's a Knights old boy by the fact that he's played for the Knights. He played 5 games for the Knights. So you've got to give a little bit of wiggle room to that. But he has already spoken about the fact that the Knights need to get their get the whole, like, he wants to be involved in the whole club. And I've heard Andrew Johns and Matty Johns talk about this because they're obviously the two most
Yeah.
vocal when it comes to, and we spoke about this last week. They're obviously the two most vocal when it comes to Newcastle, and places like Newcastle and Brisbane in particular. Those two clubs, when they are their most successful, is when they've got a big junior base or a big base of players that are from the
Yeah.
area and from and it's the same thing with Penrith. Penrith are the other one. So there's probably 3 clubs that, yeah, when they're at their best, they've got a really good foundation of junior players that have come through, and from there you can pick and choose what sort of thing you need to go and recruit from. So the Knights in their heyday, it was, you had all of these gun players that have come through the system, the Gidleys and the Johnses and Paul Harrigan and Danny Badiris, and they feel like, well, we need a gun back rower, so they go out and buy Ben Kennedy. The Broncos this year, like in the last few years where they've been a factor, they've got a big group of young players that have come through Southeast Queensland system. They go out and they realise they need a halfback. They go out and buy Adam Reynolds. Penrith, they've got that beautiful mix of youth and experience that have all come through that Penrith system.
Yeah.
And to be fair, Penrith haven't really needed to buy anybody, but that's because they've had that really strong junior system. And Justin Holbrook's already spoken about the fact that the junior system in Newcastle is where the foundation of the club is, and to me is very encouraging. I also really like the move or the him speaking about Sandon Smith being the 7, because
Yeah.
Sandon Smith's a very, very good footballer. Like,
Yeah, he's a good half.
flew under the radar last year, playing a lot of footy alongside Sam Walker, and then obviously Sam Walker's injury and Hugo Savala came in, and when Sam Walker came back, they sort of looked at what the best fit with Sam would be, and it was Hugo Savala is the one that is going to be that guy. But like, you look at Sandon Smith's performance on Anzac Day against the Dragons, where he he on his own bat won the game for the Roosters. Basically, I think he set up a couple of tries, scored a couple of tries, kicked really well, and pumped the Dragons basically off his own bat. So I really like that at halfback, because Dylan Brown was never going to be a halfback. That was just
No,
delusional.
it was a weird
Thinking that you were going to
call for.
thinking you were going to recruit someone that's Dylan Brown's a good player, but you're going to recruit someone who's barely performed at 6,
Yeah.
alongside one of the best halfbacks in the game at the moment in Mitchell Moses, to all of a sudden pull a team which has been struggling for a couple of years. Let's be honest, outside of Kalen Ponga, Newcastle's been struggling for a couple of years.
Yeah.
Like, Kalen Ponga has dragged them to finals, the times that they've
Literally,
made finals.
that year he won the Darley M, they were like
Yeah,
14th, weren't
They
they?
were
Before
literally
like came back.
last without him. They were literally last without him that year, and then they end up making the finals because he wins the Dally M. He goes down in the early stages of this year, and they just plummet after that.
Yeah.
Like it's so. Yeah, you're never going to get Dylan Brown coming along and turning those fortunes around as the 7. But if you can get Sandon Smith to be, and because your 7 doesn't have to be the best player in your team. Like, I feel like
No.
we're a little bit biased when it comes to halfbacks because there are a lot of clubs where the halfback is a talisman. Like, Cleary's the obvious one, Reynolds for Queensland, for the Broncos. But you look at, for example, Sean Johnson for the Warriors, Jerome Hughes. But there's been teams that have been successful, and it's not off the back of the work of their halfback
It's
solely.
off the back of the
Like the
forwards.
Sharks, the Sharks, for example. I mean, all due respect to Nico Hines, but Braden Trindle runs that team. Like he's basically the
Hmm.
halfback, but Braden Trindle runs that team off the back of what his back 5 do. The Dogs made the top 4, and it's not because of Toby Sexton, like,
No.
or Lachlan Galvin. So yeah, I think Sandon Smith playing halfback is going to be. I think he'll be a good foil for Dylan Brown because they're both. And thing is, they're both running players, but they also, when you've got that, you can have one of them take a run, create a bit of momentum, and all of a sudden you've got Callum Ponga the footy where he likes it. Like they've got to
Yeah,
build the
Sandon
team
Smith's
around
kicking
Callum
game's
Ponga.
decent as well.
Yeah, they've got to build the team around Callum Ponga, which means not having a halfback that's going to step on his toes by trying to control too much of the game. If you've got 2 halves that run the footy, you create opportunities for Callum Ponga to be the guy. So I think that's a smart call from Justin Holbrook. For me, he's passed the first test. Now it's about
Well, I
now.
literally text
Look,
you, didn't I? Going
yeah.
like they need a 7, and if they get a 7, they're sorted. And then literally, the first
Oh
interview
mate,
he mentions that.
they need a forward pack.
Oh yeah, forwards
They are,
massively.
yeah. They're in a
I mean, they
they're
lost the big forward, and he's gone in
they
Thompson.
lost Daniel Saifiti last year. They lose Liam Thompson this year. Kai Pearce Paul's gone. Um,
Yeah,
so
they're
yeah,
gonna get Lachlan
I mean,
Fitzgibbon back.
um, see, that's
Now
another
he's
one
been
that they.
released by
That's another
Warrington.
one that. That's another one that they lost. Like Lachlan Fitzgibbon was a gent, but they do have some good young forwards there. Like Jacob Saifiti's going to be the
Yeah,
main man, but I think Phoenix Crossland. The
didn't they
word is that
sign that
he's
man from Canberra as well?
um
The
Sasani.
young prop.
Was it? Oh, Mariota. Maybe was it him? Let me have a quick look.
Yeah,
Newcastle Knights
because
transfer.
they needed to get rid of a prop to re-sign Papali'i.
Yeah. Um, I type in.
While you're googling that, do you want me to read
I
out the
I type
Do
in
you want me to read
Newcastle
out the
Knights
fors and
transfer
against?
for Justin Holbrook.
Because they finished on no. For Newcastle
Trey
Knights at
Mooney.
the end of the
They
year.
signed Trey.
You
They
know
signed Trey Mooney. Trey Mooney's a gun.
that was him. That was
Yeah.
him. It was 338 points they scored this year. The next closest was Rabbitohs on 427. So they were the
So
next
that's nearly
closest with
100 points.
89.
That's
But
nearly
then
100
there's a
points.
huge gap. There's a huge gap then to the third worst. There's the Tigers on 477 and the Dragons on 498. They're like the 4 worst. So for them, between them and the Tigers was literally nearly 150 points. And like that's the third worst attack. Like that's huge
Yeah.
differences.
Yeah. Yeah. They're in a bit. Well, they're not going to make the finals next year. I think
No, no, no.
anything other than a wooden spoon is a win
I
for the Knights.
I I think we'll do that with next year's preview. But the
Yeah.
way the Dragons are going, I could see them potentially being wooden spooners next year with the
Yeah.
recruitment. But
What
that's for
recruitment?
later on. And also, we haven't heard much about this internal review that the Cowboys have had.
Yeah.
So one would assume that Todd Payton is safe.
Yeah, they would have
I
made a
know,
call
I
by
know,
now.
I know. This will probably get clipped if he gets sacked, but it will. Todd
Yeah.
Payton. It usually when this sort of review happens, it's done fairly quickly, so then the coach can come in and already be instigating before the
Yeah.
finals are over. Look
Yeah,
at the
we'd know by
Knights. Look
we'd
at
know by now the
Titans.
Titans, yeah. We'd
Look
know by
at
now, and we'd know about Anthony Seibold by now as well.
yeah, look at Manly.
If
Yeah,
Manly were
forgot
going to
about
move on
Manly
from
as
him,
well.
well, I mean, Seibold and Payton are the first two coaches. Oh, the Manly situation. Can I just say on the Manly situation? I've heard a lot of people talking about this. That I can't believe Anthony Seibold hasn't been moved on yet. And I'm not calling for someone to get
Same.
sacked because I hate that, but if there is that much noise about the fact that senior players don't get along with the coach, how can you expect that coach to walk in January next year for a 9 week preseason before you go into trials footy and get the best out of that group?
Yeah,
Like that
you
to me
can't.
is insane. And your captain's leaving too, so you're like your link between the players and the coach is gone, and
And he's
there's
got to
so
make a
much
call on who the
and
next
and there,
captain is, and
and
no
there's
one
so
likes
much
it.
noise. Yeah, and there's so much. Yeah, exactly. So the link that you had is gone, but all the news and all the noise that we're hearing out of Manly is that the players and the coach don't get along. Like I don't understand that. In terms of Todd Payton, yeah, it looks like he's safe, and I didn't expect him to get the sack. He's going to be under pressure next year. Like that roster shouldn't have been where it was this year.
As low as it is.
Yeah, but since that prelim final, it's the same thing we've spoken about with the Cowboys for a while. And the year after the prelim final, there was a little bit of an excuse because the Cowboys are stacked and they had a whole heap of players go over to the World Cup and didn't get a good preseason in, and they started slow, ended up making finals.
Yeah.
Same thing last year. They started slow with not really any excuses and ended up making finals. But this year, yeah, just didn't. The chopping and the changing in the halves, I don't think worked. Like they struggled at times, and it's almost like the Cowboys are in a bit of a state of flux on what their brand of footy is going to be, because the year that they nearly made the grand final, they were an attacking team, but when all of it, and same thing we saw with the Broncos last year, all of a sudden when you can't get away with just throwing the ball around knowing that you're going to score points because teams have
Hmm.
figured it out, you start turning the ball over and you start getting teams run through you. Because like the Cowboys can't tackle. Like
No.
some of their defensive efforts this year were shocking. So there's but at least with the Cowboys, you know what the problem is, and Todd Payton, I think, has done enough as Cowboys coach to earn the right to have another crack at turning that sort of thing around, at turning that around. Just
I
quickly,
agree.
I just thought I'd check the stats. What team do you reckon missed the most tackles this year?
What team missed the most tackles?
Yeah,
I have been to many a Dragons game and they were shocking. But I'm going to say it's someone with good line speed, so I'm going to say the Dolphins.
Dragons missed the least tackles this year.
Fuck off.
Yep. I'll do the top five for you. Fifth is the Cowboys with 837 missed
Okay.
tackles. Fourth is the Knights, 844 missed tackles. Third is the Tigers, 863 missed tackles. Second is the Rabbitohs with 870 missed tackles. First place, the Penrith Panthers.
Oh, they did have a bad run early doors, like.
Yeah,
And they have got a quick line speed, so I was right in the
yeah,
thinking, just
yeah.
not with the team.
So, but I guess that goes to show that when we're talking about Kurt Capewell missing the most tackles when he was picked for Origin, those stats
Yeah.
don't mean much because,
It's because
like,
of your line
not yeah,
speed. That's why
yeah,
you
but
miss a lot.
yeah, not all missed tackles are made equal.
And they've
Like,
got the third best defense.
yeah, if you're if like the Bulldogs are pretty high on this list too, and the Bulldogs are one of those teams that just chase and scrap.
Best
Like
defense,
you might miss
Bulldogs.
that first tackle, but it slows them down enough, and then they scramble and make a tackle, and they're just swamping you. And the Panthers are sort of the same.
I find that mental though, because the
Yeah,
Panthers had a really bad run and they still only conceded 469 points. Like
yeah,
that 9 game run that they went on, they mustn't have conceded hardly any
yeah.
during
What
that
about
period of winning.
while we're on this? What about errors? Who do you think made the most errors for the year?
Oh, someone that throws the ball about a lot. Um, Tigers?
The Tigers were 14th in the comp for errors, so
Okay, so it's close.
fourth best. No, so fourth
Not
best, I
fourth
guess.
best.
Yeah. Surprisingly, South Sydney made the least errors this year. Maybe because when they
Well,
turn
maybe
the
that's
ball over,
why they've
when
maybe
they
not
turn
scored that many points
well,
because
yeah, it's true. Or
they've,
when they
they've,
turn the
they've
ball over, the
high
other team just
completion
goes
rate.
around. When they turn the ball over, whoever they're playing against just goes around them, so they're not missing tackles. They're just not making it to
Yeah.
the tackles, and then they score, and then they got to kick off to the other team again. Who knows? But
Most errors, the Storm.
fifth Parramatta, fourth Melbourne, third the
Yeah, okay.
Knights, second the Cowboys, and a surprise to no one. First the Roosters.
I suppose they do throw the ball about a lot. That is
Mm,
Holbrook ball. Holbrook
yeah,
does love a throwing
yeah.
quick passes, offloads, and stuff. That's what he was like at Saints. Saints were the highest scoring team when he was playing, and you guys were second highest this year under Holbrook's
Uh,
for point scoring. Oh,
yeah, yeah, pretty close.
third highest, fourth
Um,
highest.
yeah, I feel like Canberra. Yeah, Roosters had a slow start.
Canberra's had one extra point, so you were fifth
Yeah,
highest.
but yeah, I think that sums things up for the Cowboys though. Like if you're in the top five for missed tackles and top five for errors, like other than the Knights, there was no team that was in that list twice in both
Yeah,
of those top fives. You know what I mean? Whereas the
yeah,
Cowboys
yeah,
turn
yeah.
the ball over and then can't tackle, but at least they know what the problem is. And I think Todd Payton should be given the opportunity to turn it around. If he doesn't, then all of a sudden
But I
we're
was
talking
looking.
about
I've just
who
looked up
takes
at
over.
the recruitment though. They've only signed Reed Mahoney, and they've lost obviously Reece Robson to Roosters, Duffy to the Broncos, Duffy not Tufty. Jordan McLean's retired, and Balame has gone to Cass. So they've not actually recruited that many. They've
They've
only
lost.
recruited the one.
They've lost a
Uh,
lot of depth players.
Shibasaki's off contract as well.
Jamal,
Jamal,
yeah.
the young lad,
The
his
the
younger
Cowboys
brother.
have
I'm
lost.
assuming it's his
Cowboys have
younger
lost a
brother. It's
lot of
got to
depth
be with a
players.
name like that.
Yeah, yeah, it is.
I
Cowboys
I'll tell you what,
lost a
20
lot of
years of
depth players.
age.
Like none of them really are their starters, if you know what I mean. Like
Yeah, yeah,
Jordan
yeah,
McLean
yeah, yeah.
retiring, other than Reece Robson, who's a straight swap for Reed Marnie. Like Duffy was your
It's a like for like, isn't it?
third or fourth choice half, and Valame started the year I think, but then ended up getting overtaken by Braden Burns and Robert Derby. So,
Mm.
but yeah, I think
Jock
like
Madden found a
Cowboys will be
team,
better
didn't he?
next year. Going back to the Tigers.
Um, yeah, yeah, yeah. That was right. I knew it's in his name. That's why they got Duffy for him.
Yeah.
But yeah. So and also now they've got. Look, this is our 6 and 7 next year, and they had a lot of chopping and changing on who's going to be doing what. I think now they finally settled on Dearden and Clifford, and just keep
Yeah,
Purdue at centre for a
I
bit of
don't think
development.
Purdue's ready to go yet.
No,
He
I
will
was
be
saying that
one
last
day,
year
but
when they put him in.
then as soon as Jake
But
Clifford
he's a
comes back
gun
into
centre
this,
anyway, so it's not like you need to
yeah,
rush him into that sixth position.
and as soon as
And
Jaden Clifford comes back into the side, they beat the Raiders. Like that's the
yeah,
sort of
exactly. There
like
was a bit more
he, yeah,
settled kicking game.
yeah. Jock Madden, by the way, playing in a prelim final for Wynnum Manly this weekend,
There you
in the
go.
Queensland Cup. It's Jock Madden v Sean O'Sullivan, who is playing for the North Devils.
Yeah, isn't he off somewhere as well, O'Sullivan? Is he back at
Sean
Penrith?
O'Sullivan. Good question. Peter Holler, who's going to the Knights, is also playing in that North Devils side.
Is he back at
Tell you what,
Sean O'Sullivan? I'm
we've
sure he
definitely
did.
we've gone off on a tangent here. I think we've wrapped up that conversation on the Cowboys, but
Yeah,
I'm
we
looking at
have. We're
this. I'm,
just
I'm
currently
looking at
naming
these
players.
lists. Yeah, we're doing that thing where blokes just sit around and name players. But I'm looking at these. I'm looking at these lists, right, for the Queensland Cup finals, for example, and there are a lot of when we're talking about depth.
Former players.
No. But when we're not even that. When we're talking about depth for expansion and saying that we don't have enough players, I'm going to rattle off some names of players that could crack it in the NRL. For the North Devils, like Sean O'Sullivan's done it. Jack Ahern at 5'8" for the North Devils has been one of the best performers in Queensland Cup for a very, very long time. Playing lock, playing fullback, playing in the halves, across multiple positions. Kieran Mosley, another one, who people would have seen him playing in the All Stars games for the Indigenous All Stars, has been around for ages for the North Devils and has been a gun at that level for a very long time.
Yeah.
Also, at hooker for Wynnum Manly, Cam Bukowski is one of the best young hookers coming through. Jock Madden, Deloise Hoyter, Ben Farr, who's always been there or thereabouts in like Player of the Year for Wynnum Manly. For Burleigh and Redcliffe who are playing, you've got guys like Credence Toyer, Josh Rogers, Guy Hamilton, who's a gun. Going through it, Fletcher Baker, Max Platt's brother Jordan, Tom Opacek, who was really good
Yeah.
for like made the grand final with
Good at Hull
Parramatta
KR.
a year ago. Like there is a lot of talent in Ethan Quyward, who's in the reserves for the Dolphins. Who remember him when he went down to the Dogs for a couple of years
Yeah.
and was really good in the centres. Like Bailey Butler on the reserves for Burleigh. I think he's coming back from an injury, but I think he's played in a couple of All-Stars games and done really well. Like there is a lot of depth in rugby league. It's just about players getting opportunities.
Yeah. Exactly that. I was too busy reading about Sean O'Sullivan then. I thought, because Brad Schneider's going to Dolphins next year,
I think
I
Schneider's
thought they
back at
did
the
a
Panthers.
straight
No,
swap.
Schneider's going to the Knights, isn't he?
No, he's going Dolphins.
Yeah,
He
they might have.
100% is going Dolphins for a year. And I thought they
Sure.
did a swap deal, but nothing's been reported about that. So
Sean
I must have
O'Sullivan
dreamt that.
linked with
But
Sean
Schneider is
O'Sullivan linked with
definitely
move to
going.
the Bulldogs.
Oh, there you go.
Maybe. What about New South Wales Cup? Just to prove my point on the depth.
Oh mate,
Oh no, that's
I'm doing
NRL.
a full episode with AJ on the New South Wales and Queensland Cup like depth. So
Yeah,
you're just teasing them for it.
I wish I had the time to like watch Queensland Cup. I like sometimes listen
Yeah.
to this New Zealand side for for New South Wales Cup. At fullback, Tantua Piki. In the centres, Morgan Harper, Edward Cossey on the wing, Moala Graham
Morgan
Tuffa
Harper.
in the centres. Yep, Jet Cleary at halfback, who's taken them to a prelim final. Bunty Afoa,
Nice.
Sam Healy, Tanner Stowers Smith, Eddie Eremea Tuavau, Tom Arley. Like these are all players that have played a lot of NRL football, and they're in the Warriors
Yeah.
New South Wales Cup side.
Or will be playing a few
And
in Jed Cleary's
yeah,
place.
yeah,
Morgan
and yeah,
Harper, man.
the Dragons side for
Yeah.
that's already in the grand final for New
Dragons
South
one's
Wales Cup.
class.
Lachlan Ilias, Jonah Glover, a kid that came through Queensland as a gun. Nick
Yeah.
Sagranis, Hayden Buchanan, Cody Ramsey on his way back. Apparently he's linked to the Roosters. Loco Pacifici Tonga, Raymond Fatala Mariner, Hame Sele, Jacob Webster. Like a lot of good players in these
Jacob
lists.
Webster.
Yeah. Like
Jeez.
players that are just talent, but just don't get NRL opportunities.
No. Exactly, and that's one of the things. But you know, things sometimes don't happen in rugby league, and you've either chance comes and goes, or you
Yeah.
take it. And
Look at Ben
someone
Tolte at the
who,
Broncos, who was playing for North
yeah,
Sydney and gets a shot at the Broncos
Shibasaki,
play. Yeah, exactly. Plays
Shibasaki
Origin.
at 27 plays Origin, and he was on a
Yeah,
training trial deal.
training trial. Yeah,
I can tell you right now, he's not anymore on a training trial deal
no,
at the Broncos.
no.
Um,
He's pretty lucky that he
took
went
a
out
good
on.
try at the weekend, which we'll get into in a
Pretty
bit.
lucky that he went out on the drink before or after he signed his new deal.
Yeah, absolutely. But there's been major developments on our little section last week with the club captain for London Broncos reportedly becoming the back page news over in Australia. It's so back page that it will probably make page 20 on the
Yeah,
newspaper spread.
like a little
It
small
looks
drop in the paper.
it looks like it's not going to be any of the names we mentioned or that were rumouredly, because it's looking like Regan Campbell-Gillard is going to London Broncos. I really hope this is like not the player they were on about, and this is
Yeah,
like an extra on top. Do you know
Yeah,
what I mean? Because they've announced they're spending the full cap regardless of whether they're in Super League or the Championship, including the three marquee players they're allowed, but they can't really do that because one's got to be from your academy. So
yeah.
unfortunately, they will only get two marquee spots, um, which I think I'm unsure if they mentioned three, but that was what report was on a report that I read earlier today. I hope he's just one of the two marquee players and he's not that. But Jason Demetriou has signed a 3-year deal,
Yeah.
according to reports over here, which takes him 2026, 2027, 2028. The year being that PNG should be entering the NRL in 2028, isn't it?
20. What year are we in now? Yeah, 28 for
2027's
PN.
Perth and
28
28
for
PNG.
PNG.
The
Yeah,
fact
yeah,
that he's reportedly signing a 3-year deal that takes him being a London Broncos coach in 2028
yeah.
is the writing
Uh,
on the wall for PNG?
um,
Or is he just not
well,
going to be the coach?
um, well, how long's the deal? Sorry, with London.
3 years, so 26, 27, 28. According to reports,
Yeah.
nothing's been officially announced.
Well, look, the one that I'd be looking at for Papua New Guinea is Adrian Lamb. So,
Yes, absolutely.
so maybe Jason Demetriou just wasn't in the calculations. But yeah, we spoke about him last week and the fact he can coach. Um, he knows the Super League, and unfortunately was just the victim of a really, really poor South Sydney season,
Yeah,
or inheriting a South Sydney squad, which I mean, again,
which still picking up the pieces now.
again we've seen this year that and I mean they did have injuries, Souths, but maybe he was overachieving. They had injuries last year too,
Yeah,
and finished
exactly.
better, I'm pretty sure. So yeah, really good pick up for London. In terms of Jason Demetriou, look,
And Campbell-Gillard?
Regan Campbell Gillard will kill it in Super League. I've no doubt
Yeah.
about that. Like we're talking about an Origin and an international
Hey,
player here.
imagine him playing in the Championship. I think it's
Yeah,
going to be like a bulldozer.
yeah. I just, it's a shame that it never really kicked on with Regan Campbell Gillard at the Titans. And I remember watching one of his press conferences earlier in the
Leaving two
year.
years early.
Yeah, I remember watching one of his press conferences earlier in the year where he's like, it's just about trying to integrate into a new system, and maybe he's a victim of the fact that nobody that played for the Titans integrated into the system particularly well over the last 12 months. So look, Regan Campbell Gillard still has a lot to offer to rugby league, and if he sees an opportunity going over to London, then absolutely go for it because yeah, you can't fault anybody for making a decision they feel is better for their career, and he obviously knows a lot better than what we do. But yeah, it's not exactly a marquee signing. Might have been back page 6 years ago when he was playing Origin, but
That's what I mean. That's
he
why
he's
I had
not the
a
player
don't.
now. He's not the player now that he was then. But
That's why the amount of
good,
hype they gave it in that podcast, I can't
yeah,
see. This is either got to be a false report or they were they were overestimating his status.
yeah, well,
It's one or the
um,
other because he can't
yeah,
he can't be that marquee player they were talking about.
yeah. I struggle to see that being the case, but I mean, it's a good pickup to be
Yeah, it's a
honest.
great pickup,
Little bit of breaking news on the
especially when.
podcast.
Oh, go on.
Victor Radley's copped a 10-game suspension from the Sydney Roosters and will pay $30,000. Oops, sorry, I've got a video playing here. I've got a video playing in the background. It's very dramatic music as well. Victor Radley's copped a 10-game suspension from the Roosters and will pay a $30,000 fine towards medical research for his involvement in the Brandon Smith saga. The star forward had been caught up in Smith's court case. We already spoke about that. Radley hasn't been charged by police, not accused of any wrongdoing. Club
So he's
statement said
not getting a sack.
references in the media to communications allegedly between him and others have put the Sydney Roosters into disrepute. Radler's monster ban will be without pay, and instead of a fine, he will pay the five-figure sum to St Vincent's Hospital as part of their cancer research. The 27-year-old
So
accepted the punishment from the Roosters, apologised to all parties involved, from his teammates to the members and fans. So St
So scrap
Helens.
what we said at the start. Victor
So
Radley
yeah,
is
his
staying.
total loss of income would be so the part that
It's
where
about
his
300
his
grand,
so
that
so
surely.
it, 150 grand with the 10-game suspension and the 30 grand payment to St Vincent's Hospital. So look, Roosters not messing about there, but at the end of the day, like what we were talking about at the start, he hasn't tested positive or been caught taking cocaine, so Roosters were never going to be able to sever ties with him. But that's a fairly handy suggestion that what has happened and the situation he's gotten himself into and the club into, they don't look too kindly on.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, you can skip the first 20 minutes of the podcast. I'm going to put this as the trailer and just skip the first 20 minutes.
Oh, another little bit. Sorry, I know that we've missed a lot of stuff when we've done podcasts before, but I just this has also
I
popped
literally
up.
said to
Nine,
you before we
yeah,
recorded this there would
like
be
these have
breaking
happened since
news.
we started recording. So 9 players depart in the Dolphins. Sean O'Sullivan without a club. Kenny Bromwich retired. Josh Kerr to the Dragons. Harrison Graham unknown. Mark Nichols retired. Michael Wonga to the Broncos. Ryan Jackson unknown. Orblex Tafar to the Broncos. That's a decent pickup. And Peter
Yeah.
Holler to the Knights.
Wow.
So there you go. Don't say that you don't hear it first on the Rugby League Pom-Cast. I nearly called it the walkabout of a saint.
Well, why not? Throwback Thursday as we're recording on.
Wow,
Um,
there you go.
yeah, there you go. Breaking news. And I think that's a great way to wrap up the news because we're not going to top that. And it's time to preview and review because we have the greatest game of the season, of the decade, and of all time, potentially, with
Yeah,
the. Oh, it was theatre. It was
it was insane.
absolute theatre.
Yeah, yeah, it was crazy what we saw on Sunday, and I just remember sitting. So first half I actually thought was pretty average. Like both teams just couldn't hold the ball, and I was like, oh, is this what we're going to get? Like two teams that are obviously way too overexcited about what's happening right now and just going a bit nuts. And then second half started, and it looked like the Raiders had sort of handled I guess the level of the game or the intent, the importance of the game a lot better coming out, and there was the sin bin or the Hudson Young and Reece Walsh coming together. Which can I? Why are we sin binning? Why are we sin binning players for
Why
that?
the fuck was
No,
that the
no,
same punishment?
no one even needed to go to the bin. Give a penalty
I
against the Broncos for
disagree.
S.
I disagree.
Oh,
I think Reece Walsh should have gone to the bin for the reaction, for the headbutt emotion. We've seen people sent off for headbutts in all codes of sport.
yeah. Well, yeah.
I'd have
Jerome
no
Luai was
problem
one of
with
them,
10 in the
headbutting
bin for
Reece Walsh.
Reece and a
Remember?
penalty. Exactly, and then
Yeah,
a penalty to Canberra. But the fact that they gave a penalty against Canberra and binned Hudson Young for saying a few words,
yeah. Well, what like he ran like 20 meters
you'd have,
to
you'd
to
have
get in Reece
Ronaldo
Walsh's face.
Militalo having 10 minutes every single week, if not 20 or 30 minutes a week.
Yeah,
You'd have
I
half
love
the
what Ronaldo
players
does.
out. Exactly. And you know what? That sort of reaction adds to the game, adds to the fire. And
Yeah,
if a player reacts in the way Reece Walsh did, that's when punishment should be handed out.
yeah. I feel like it threatened to derail the game though. To be fair, and I feel like in finals footy, I feel like should be refed a little bit differently, just like what State of Origin is. And I know they've backtracked on that on State of Origin. I think that's what my frustration is with it, is that players can't even come together anymore. Like
Yeah.
I don't know how the Broncos got a penalty for that. but I also don't think that either player should have been sin binned. Like that's just where I stand on it. Like I want to be able to see like the Pat Carrigan sin binning. That's a sin bin every day of the week. Like when you run out and take someone's head off, and but I don't know. Like Morgan Smithy's passed his HIA, and it's not the worst high tackle that you see, but like that's a sin bin all the time. But we should be trying to avoid removing players from the field, if you know what I mean. Like I don't think Reece or Hudson should
Yeah.
have gone, but then after that, like Canberra score a couple of tries, and it's like, oh well, that's the game. And then like I'm still watching it, and Reece Walsh comes back on the field, and it was just different. Like every time he touched the ball, they
He
could
came
not put a
back
hand.
with
They,
vengeance.
yeah, they could not put a hand on him.
That right edge got carved up for
Yeah, and I
Canberra.
know I'll,
Jed
I'll get
Stewart and Tomoko.
I'll get onto that when we do our preview
Defense.
of this week against the Sharks. But and like Reece Walsh single-handedly dragging Brisbane to touching distance. And then just the drama from that point. Like you just knew that Brisbane could have done it when Reece Walsh came back on the field. Like as soon as he's back on the field, he slices through, scores a try himself. Then he sets up another two down that left-hand side, and then there's the field goal from Reece Walsh, which hits the crossbar and hits the wrong
Oh,
side of the crossbar and bounces back. And I was like, is that the chance? And then the last shot at field goal, I'm like, they're gonna get another chance here for a 2-point field goal. Like you've seen Latrell do it, we've seen Nathan Cleary do it. You can't rule it out. Reece Walsh went so close, he's hitting them well, and he missed it.
and then
He missed it. The ball hit the ground, and one of the Raiders players dived on it. And I turned the TV off and went to make dinner. And I get a call
did you
from my
actually?
mother. Yeah, and I get a call from my. I'm like, that was exciting. Broncos will play. Broncos will play the Sharks. Be a good game at Suncorp next week. I'll head along. Get a call from my mother, who is a mad Raiders supporter, going, "What the fuck is going on? What is happening?" I'm like, I know it got close, but you won the game." And she was like, "Go. What do you mean?" I'm like, you won the game." And she was like, "Go and turn the TV back on." And I did, and saw Zach Hosking running through Reece Walsh's leg, and I'm like, "Holy shit, the Broncos are gonna win this!" Like, the Broncos are gonna win this. And then we get into Golden Point, and I don't, and like both teams missed a couple of shots, and it was like, this is going extra time. Like this game's gonna go forever. And then like for Canberra to win the game twice. Like that knock on from Jed Stewart, the tiniest knock on, but it's still a knock on that you'll ever see.
Right,
And
see,
then, and
the way I looked at that, it looks like his hand hits the Broncos player hands, and then his hand doesn't actually touch it. I still believe that is what I'm looking at and what I'm seeing every time I see a replay.
yeah,
Every time I see a replay, I don't see Jed Stewart's hand actually touch the ball. I see his hand hit the
it was
Broncos player hand.
it was the replay from behind that I think showed his finger brushing the ball before it goes into Dean Mariner. Um,
Really?
yeah, I like to me it looked pretty clear as a knock on, and I'm like, oh, the Broncos are going to win this. Like, there's no way that Canberra can have this one twice and
Yeah.
have it taken
And
off
then
them
we'll go on to
and
win it.
win again. And then yeah, the field goal from Ben Hunt. Like, if anyone deserves a moment like that, it's Ben Hunt. And yeah, just
And
ridiculous.
even that one just creeped over the crossbar.
Yeah, brushed the post and fell over the cross. Like,
Literally, I
oh,
was like,
it was
I didn't
insane.
realise it hit the post until that replay
No,
behind,
me neither.
like,
Me neither.
behind Ben Hunt, and I went, what? I was like, this
I
game
remember.
had everything.
I remember watching him kick it, and like I spoke to Benny on the Monday before the game when the Broncos had that open media session. I was like, because I was laughing with him about against the Storm, how he kept just shooting up out of the line and trying to smack people. And I was like, "How you feeling?" He's like, "I'm very, very sore." And like he had the hammy injury at the start of the year, and he's not as young as he used to be, Benny. And I saw him get the ball. I'm like, "Oh, does he have the legs to kick this?" And then it kicked it, and it's just it was one of those drop kick like with Latrell Mitchell. When he hits one well, you just know it's got the distance. But
Yeah.
with Benny, I'm like, it was like it's sitting up there, it's sitting in the sky. I'm like, has this got the legs? Like, is this gonna fall short and we're gonna keep going? And then yeah, the arms and It was the best game of football I've ever watched.
Yeah. Oh, mate, easily. It had everything. It had the by the way, how Ashley Klein got passed by the NRL for a great refereeing performance, I have no idea. Um,
Yep.
I thought it was one of the worst refereeing performances I've seen. He got multiple calls wrong, whether that was him or the bunker, I don't know
Yeah.
which.
How about him?
Um,
How about him? The Broncos have the momentum at the start of the game. He just keeps blowing penalties
yeah,
against the Raiders, and I'm just going like, why? Why are we
it's
doing this in finals? Why? Like he
and
did it in Origin,
why
and we
does he
spoke about the
keep
penalty
getting
count.
big names?
We spoke about the penalty count in Origin too, and he gets a big finals game, a top four finals game, and just blows the ass out of the whistle in the first half. Like it, I'll never
Blowing the
understand
pee
it.
out of it.
I'll never
It's weird,
understand it.
but it'll easily go down as top three games of all time.
Oh yeah, yeah, 100%.
It's easily the game of the millennia,
Yeah,
the game of the
I think
NRL.
the only one that goes close is some of those old Broncos and Cowboys games, like around that 2015-16 sort of time. But
Yeah,
like, yeah, it's the best game of this year. It's the best game of the last 5 years.
yeah,
Yeah,
and
ridiculous.
yeah, and the other game, Penrith beat the Warriors. There you go.
Yeah,
That's about it.
absolute stinker.
Standard. The Warriors were never going to win that. Let's face it. They fought well for 45 minutes, and then the floodgates opened. A couple of controversial refereeing calls with the
Mm,
double movement for Schneider's try. Um, given as a try, and a
mm.
couple of others that 50-50s that went Panthers' way. But they just didn't have the momentum. We talked about momentum going into finals. The Warriors didn't have it. They had injury issues. It was backs against the wall sort of stuff, and Penrith did what Penrith do,
Yep.
and they won.
Yeah, well said. Could not put it better myself. I didn't mind the Brad Schneider try. That's just one of those ones that when you slow it down in super slow mo, it looks bad.
Yeah, I
Like
I agreed with that.
like his whole body ended up over the line. Like
That's what
he,
I said. I was like, if your
yeah,
whole upper body ends up over the line, the ball
that's
is going to
momentum.
end up
Yeah,
there because it's on your chest. I mean, if it's if like your head is on the line, but your upper body is
yeah, and your
before the
arms up
line,
like this.
that's double movement.
Yeah,
But if your whole body ends up and you've been pushed over by the defense, that's the problem. And yeah, so we go on to this week's games. There are
some
two
good games
games
this
this
weekend.
week because two teams get the week off because they've earned the right, obviously being Melbourne Storm and the Brisbane Broncos earning that right, which means we have Penrith Panthers versus the
Bulldogs.
Doggies
Yeah,
on Sunday, and we have Raiders versus the Sharks.
yep.
Now, it's interesting. We
It
didn't
is.
mention the other. We didn't mention the other games because they don't really have importance. Because Storm won, and off we go.
Yeah, yeah.
And
I don't want to talk about the Roosters till next year.
you don't want to talk about the Roosters, which is fair enough. Really, the capitulation of them by the Sharks. Even though we both backed the Roosters to eventually to overcome them. Yours out of blind hope. Ours me just because I thought they had the
Your
momentum.
yours out of expert analysis.
Expert analysis as always. I think I only got one result right. Expertise.
I got
Um,
none. I got no
oh
tips
no,
right on
yeah,
those
I got
games.
Storm and Panthers right. That was it. I got two out of
Oh,
the four. Um, yeah, this week I'm gonna hopefully get to the game on time on Sunday, but we'll start off with the Saturday fixtures:
yep.
Raiders versus Sharks. The battle of the forward packs. It's gonna be hard for the Sharks to go to Canberra.
Mm.
Isn't it an 8 p.m. kickoff? Did I read that right?
7:50. Yeah, so late game. It won't be that cold. It won't be as cold as other times this year
Previous.
down there. But yeah, it's yeah, late kickoff.
Why is it late? Is that because of the AFL again?
Yes, so the AFL have got a prelim final on at 5:15, I think. That the Brisbane Lions and
Jeez.
Collingwood kick off. So yeah, that's why it's a little bit later.
That is horrid. So yeah, the Sharks forward pack is looking to get on top of the Raiders, which I think they'll be fairly even on that front. However, I think the battle will be in the outside backs, and I think the Sharks have better outside backs by a country mile. As you
Mm,
alluded to, and as I mentioned, that right hand defence of Timoko and Jed Stewart got absolutely poleaxed, and them coming up against KL Ido and Ronaldo Militalo.
yeah,
There's only going to be one
and
winner there.
and where did the Sharks score all their points against the Roosters last week?
Down the left hand flank.
Yep, yeah, the
But
Toby
KL
Rudolph.
Ido didn't want to score, did he?
No, there was the Toby Rudolph try, but the two for Ronaldo Molitalo in the first half, like Braden Trindle and the form that he's in at the moment. And I'm not a big, I don't like watching the Sharks, to be honest. Like I find them really painful to watch at times, but the form that Braden Trindle is in at the moment is I have major fears for that Canberra Raiders right edge coming up against him, and yeah, the finishing of the try assisting of Kaeliro and the finishing of Ronaldo Molitalo. But the only problem is that, like you said, the two forward packs in this game, they're two good forward packs. I don't think the Sharks can go with Canberra, and
No.
I don't think that we get to see that right edge of Canberra get exposed if the Sharks forward pack doesn't aim up. And I think you look at like Adam Fanua-Blake's the standout there, no doubt
Yeah.
about that. But then you look at the depth players and Britton Nicola coming off the bench, he'll probably end up starting, and Billy Burns will go back to the bench or shift to lock. But
Yeah.
you look at Josh Papali'i, Hudson Young, Zach Hosking, Corey Horsburgh. Like I think Tarpanet and Fanua-Blake cancel each other out, but those four starting, and then Rudolph, Burns, Wilton, Jesse Colquhoun, I think I know who I'm picking. And then the impact that Canberra
Yeah.
get off their bench, like Owen Paddy coming off the bench and sometimes playing tit for tat with Tom Starling, sometimes coming on and replacing Tom Starling. Simi Sasangi, who can come on and relieve in the back row. Morgan Smithies and Adam Mariota coming off the bench. Against Nikora and Talakai, both will have an impact if Nikora does come off the bench like he's named to. But then Oregon Kafusi, Braden Hamlin-Wele, both good players, but I know which bench I'm picking, if you know what I mean. Like
Yeah.
I lean towards Canberra because of that. My big worry for them, the two big worries for them is how do you emotionally come back from winning a game twice but then losing it? And then can they get that right edge in check? Those are the two questions. Ricky Stewart will try and answer them this week, but I think that forward pack is going to aim up, and they probably won't have to answer those questions. So I'm going to go Canberra in. I'm going to go Canberra in a tight game to start with, and they'll come home with a wet sail.
Yeah. Probably. Yeah. I
Canberra by
think. I think
12.
if the points on the forward pack, I said, they're fairly even, but when you name them out loud, they're not very even at all.
No.
That Canberra forward pack is insane, especially with Papali. He's back from this miracle ankle injury that he had, even though he played last week. Yeah, there's only going to be one winner there, isn't there,
Yeah.
in terms of that forward battle, which
Yeah.
would then mean
And
the
then
Raiders
there's
would
always the
go on to
question about
face
the Storm in
the
Melbourne.
Storm.
And there's always the question too about the Sharks in big games. And I've been very bullish about it this week. And to be fair, with Cronulla, there's a little bit of grunt about them this week that we haven't seen in the past. Like there's a bit of aggro about the fact that people keep writing them off, which we've just done. But like, I guess that's a factor. But I just
The
Canberra have won
underdog
too.
card.
Canberra have won too many big games this year.
Yeah, they didn't win one last week though.
Or they won
They
it
did
twice.
twice. They did twice. So just not when it mattered. And the other game, which I'm hoping to get to, I've got a pretty busy day. I'm in work till
70
11.
odd
Then I'm going
thousand.
to. Is that how many they've sold?
Yeah.
Shit. Good job. I got a free ticket.
Yeah.
Um. So yeah. So that game is going to be absolutely unreal. Penrith. will be fighting 14 men with that crowd because that crowd will get behind them players on the pitch. Like,
Yeah,
that'll be an insane little thing. I might just not wear my Panthers gear tomorrow,
yeah,
on Sunday, depending on when you're
might
listening.
be
It might be
smart.
tomorrow if you're listening on Saturday. Um, yeah, so that's going to be absolutely horrific to be in and a hostile environment for the players to play in. They've just got to keep the cool, keep the calm, and they should have enough to win on paper. But we all know games are not played on paper. But will it end up as we're all expecting? Will the Bulldogs, with their injuries, even though Kickows refused to get a scan so he can play on
Yep.
his facial injury, will the injuries, they've only won 2 in the last 7. The form guide goes out the window in finals, we know, but it's always good to come in with a bit of momentum.
Yeah.
Panthers have that, Bulldogs don't. Are they going to upset the odds?
I don't think they are. Stephen Crichton's named in the reserves. He won't play. Like, it's a
No,
syndesmosis. He's not going to
no.
play. He's probably named there as a spiritual leader, if you know what I mean. Like, but
Yeah, so he can be
I,
there in the dressing room.
even with him not there, well, I mean, with him not there, it gives them the chance to have a reshuffle that I think a lot of people had been expecting from the very start of the year, or from when they signed Lachlan Galvin, which is Matt Burton shifting into the centres, and then Galvin going to 6 and Toby Sexton playing at halfback.
Yeah.
And I just think that makes, look, on paper, as we've spoken about, that to me makes their attack look a little bit more balanced, if you ask me. And I'm interested to see how that works. They're going to be on the back of a 70,000 odd crowd, which is going to be a factor. And this is going to be a cracking game on a Sunday afternoon. Like, it's going to be high intensity, and that's the sort of game that the Bulldogs love because they're a smaller forward pack and they move around a little bit more. They shift the footy around. They hunt in packs in defence. But I think the form and the fact that Canberra have done it, the fact that Penrith have done it so many times, just makes me lean to them. Like, if it's a tight game and high intensity game, like I think it's going to be, and it comes down to the last 10 minutes and there's a try in it, and you've got Nathan Cleary on one side and Toby Sexton on the other side, trying to manage that comeback.
Mm-hmm.
Who do you take?
Yeah, you take Cleary on all the way.
Yeah, not even just Cleary. If you've got Cleary,
To
Dylan
Lundy,
Edwards,
he's coming to
Isaiah
his own.
Yeo, potentially Mitch Kenny, Blaze Talangi, as you said, all of these players, Moses Leota, Brian Toto, all of these players that have done it before, Liam Martin. I just think
Sorensen.
like the Dogs are going to show up, and they have to. The Dogs are going to show up because it's the Bulldogs and because they've got that sort of crowd there. But yeah, just when the whips are cracking, I can't go past Penrith.
Will we look back? Say we're right and Panthers win. They beat the Broncos next week and they are in the final and they win 5 in a row. Will we look back at round 26 when he rested all them players against the
Mm,
Bulldogs? Will we look back at that and go, he is the GOAT. He is the greatest coach of all time. He's made the call and went, you know what, we're giving up on top 4. It's only a pipe dream. We're going to do it tough, like we did in 2021 when they won the
yeah.
first one. They did it tough. They played every week of the finals that year
No, they lost
because they
to
lost the
South that
first
year.
game.
Yeah,
Are they going to go, that is a genius decision, and that is what happens. Whether they win it or if they just get to the final, are they still
yeah,
it's a bold call to give up that top 4 hope.
yeah. Well, I mean, Dylan Edwards has had injury issues this year. Brian Toto's played busted all year. Like, he had the hamstring in Vegas and had knee issues that nearly kept him out of Origin. Nathan Cleary, the last couple of years, has had a lot of injury issues. Isaiah Yo's got a busted shoulder. Liam Martin's been playing busted. Giving them that rest and being that bold to back yourself in these sort of games, this is all obviously, yeah. If they win 5 in a row, like I think if they win this game, they play the Broncos at Suncorp. The Broncos with all of the momentum, like the Broncos are the most informed team in the
Could you
comp.
imagine this run that they've had? That they'd have to. They won last week, obviously, against a crowd that, was
Yeah, and then they
hostile
play in
enough.
front
And
of
then they're playing
70,000 Mad Bulldogs
70,000
fan.
Doggies fans,
Yeah,
basically. At least 60,000 of that is Doggy fans. They're playing against that. They then go to Suncorp, 50 odd thousand Broncos fans.
yeah,
And then
and then play
it's
Melbourne or Canberra in a grand final.
honest to God, mate, it will be one of the greatest sporting stories of all time.
I kind of want to see it. I like, you know what I mean? Like,
When you put
I
them
think,
figures and then numbers
yeah,
into perspective of they're going against the grain. There's not one NRL side fan base except for the Panthers fans that want Panthers to win it. So they're
yeah,
going against everyone and everything.
yeah, yeah, exactly. I kind of want to see him do it.
I agree.
If we're doing way too early predictions like what we did last week, I still think it's going to be a Broncos Melbourne grand final.
Yeah.
But to see, particularly from where they were, like you think back to round 6 or 7 this year when we were talking about their last, like, are they done? And we didn't
Yeah.
say they were done, but we're still asking that question. To think back to where they were, to where they could potentially be, is insane.
James Graham said it because I went to the Knights Panthers game when they lost like 5 on the bounce or whatever it was, and they played them and they lost. And they were getting battered at half time. And a Panthers fan actually asked the question, "Are we done? Is this it?
Is this it? Yeah.
Like, is this it?" And James Graham went, "Look." They went, "Look at this side and look at what they've achieved." They went, "Until they are mathematically
Yeah.
cannot have a chance of getting in that top 8, do not write them off."
No.
And now we're week 2 of the finals going, is this going to be the greatest story of all time?
Yeah.
If this happens. Like,
Yeah.
they were wrote off by a lot of people early doors.
Yeah.
And this is just, it's incredible regardless. And like you said, that experience will probably carry them through against this injury hit Bulldog side, but they'll be doing it against the grain regardless.
Yeah. Yeah. It's incredible what they've done, and
And I think that's
we'll look back on them, and we'll miss what we've seen.
so. Two
I
games
think
this
in
week.
10 years time.
You've said your victors. Let's have a score prediction.
I think Canberra will beat the Sharks 24-12,
Okay,
and I think Penrith will beat the Bulldogs 20-16.
so no 13+ margins this
No,
week.
no, thank God for that.
I don't blame you, and I'm gonna go. I'll go Raiders. I said Raiders would win last week. I'm gonna go with Raiders again. But like you, I think it's going to be close, mainly due to that left edge and right edge of Canberra.
Yeah.
And I'm going to go with 28-20 to the Raiders
Yep.
because I think they're going to concede a lot with KL Iro first try scorer. St. Helens born, KL Iro. Um, and I'm going to go with
Shameless.
Panthers. Hey, listen, we'll claim them all. He played over here when he was about 6, so we'll claim him. And then I'm going to go with Panthers 22
Yep.
and Doggies 10. 22-10. I'm going to go with 12-point victory for them. And I think that's a nice way to end our Rugby League roundup. Obviously, we started off with the Radley news. We've had breaking news in between. that he isn't going to be fired, mainly due to the exact words of my mate
Nick
sent
Politis.
me, basically saying that it was taken out of context. They had no grounds to effectively sack him,
Mm,
so they've deemed this punishment fair enough for bringing the club into disrepute, effectively,
yep.
which I think is a fair call. Unfortunately, it was a nice 24 hours to be a St. Helens fan, and thinking we're going to finally get a Morgan Knowles replacement. However, that's been dashed in the last few minutes, which means we are out for another
Back to the drawing
13.
board.
Back to the drawing board of recruitment that we've decided to leave last minute. So at the minute, we've got like hardly any squad next year. So any NRL clubs get sending. Maybe we might go after Shibasaki's brother. We need a second row. So there we go. This has been the Rugby League Pom-Cast. We haven't done a diversion because we did a little diversion during it, and it's been an absolute pleasure. And we'll catch you next week.
Catch you, boys and girls.